Welcome back to New Slang, everyone. I am music journalist Thomas Mooney, and we are on to episode 226, where I am joined by a trio of up-and-coming songwriters here in the state of Texas. That'd be Ashton Naylor, Cameron Allbright, and Hank Weaver. This one we cut during Cotton Fest, which I really need to give a shout out to Galley Winter. A few weeks before, Brad had written this article over on Galley Winter about these three guys, and I guess it was probably about a day or two later that Cotton Fest announced their acoustic songwriter lineup, and all three were on the bill, so I kind of figured let's round up the three of those dudes and talk to them about music. And yes, since this one is recorded during Cotton Fest, the back end of the episode, there is some music in the background because, yeah, there's a music festival happening. It's not super crazy by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, there's a little bit there. You know, it's always nice talking with up-and-coming songwriters because it's a reminder that, you know, the kids today, they're still full of piss and vinegar and ambition and drive, and that they aren't completely jaded by the industry. We haven't whitewashed all their personality away. It's also a reminder that
so I guess I thought we'd probably start this off by, Hank, do you have any questions about the podcast? You want me to get all those answers real quick before we move on?
It's also a reminder.
Zero? Okay.
Deep down, no matter who you are.
Well, first off, thank y'all for coming on. You know, one of the things that
at any level,
when I was starting to book all these podcasts for this weekend, I thought
they still share a lot of the same.
Let's do one with some of the guys who are doing like the young up and comer, like the acoustic song swap stuff, and
rooted deep down in their souls. And trying
I won't lie and say, but like
palatable way,
even just that little Galley Winter article just was like, well, okay, maybe that's something I'll go and
Ashton and Cameron and Hank, they
pursue that route of going with y'all three,
trying to go viral. And
so
easiest of ways,
before this,
just for the sake of fortune and fame.
You know, you guys were talking with Randy and Kyle, their tour manager, was like, he's talking to some up and comers, kind of talking business.
It's comforting though.
What was kind of the spiel that he was kind of giving y'all as far as pointers and
the way of the old, I guess, which is, you know, being alone in a room with a guitar and a pen and pad and trying to say something.
As far as pointers,
so yeah, if anything, that should all be reassuring. As the Who once famously said, you know, the kids are all right. Out here, style tells a story. When you throw on something from OG Lone Star, you're not just wearing a shirt or a cap, you are wearing a Texas anthem. You are a Texas ambassador of the tried and true. That is why New Slang has proudly partnered with OG Lone Star, Austin-born, Texas-bred, and officially licensed by Lone Star Beer. If you go on over to oglonestar.com or head on over to their Instagram at OG_Lone_Star, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There are fresh vintage-inspired t-shirts, retro trucker caps, and everything from satin jackets to giant throw blankets. Whether you're walking into a place like the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, the Continental Club over in Austin, or Cheatham Street Warehouse down in San Marcos, you'll stick out in the best of ways in new Lone Star gear from OG Lone Star. Whether you're a wallflower like myself, a two-stepper out on the dance floor, or holding court by the bar top, you'll feel right at home in vintage-inspired gear by OG Lone Star. All those links, they'll be in the show notes. Again, that is oglonestar.com. All right, let's get on into the episode. Here is Ashton Naylor, Cameron Allbright, and Hank Weaver.
He knows because he's been there, and I think that's. I think he kind of.
Got me.
Yeah,
Hank.
As far as the band and stuff like that. Honestly, I just
Nope. Zero.
He shouldn't. He's too tough. I'm gonna tell him.
You know, I think it's kind of funny because sometimes when you're getting advice from somebody, it's like sometimes it doesn't make sense until like it actually kind of plays out. You're like, it's kind of in this abstract way of like, what's he really even talking about? And then you have those moments where it actually plays out that way, and you're like, you look back and go, oh, okay, that's what they were meaning about X, Y, and Z, you know, because I think like one of the things he was talking about on the podcast with me was trying to tell guys to like, you know, not necessarily like live in your head. And Hayes was actually kind of saying this too, was it's so easy to like just when you're a songwriter, you're an artist, to live in your head because that's where all these songs are kind of being made, right? And it's very, very easy to just live in there versus, you know, as
maybe
the
I'll have a
kids
bad
say, you
answer.
know, touch some grass, right? Like
as far
actually
as
you get some
pointers,
grounding, let it be.
He's given us a lot of pointers.
Live out
He's given us
there
one really
too.
good
Like,
one.
you have to like
be great and be gone.
take all those moments because you know you don't
take care of
necessarily
business,
want to take
try
those
your
all for
best,
granted because
perform
then you're
well
that
on
guy at the
stage,
end of the
get off
bar
stage, shake
20 years
everyone's
from now
hands,
going, oh, you should have heard me, you
just
know.
be a cool dude and then be gone and don't
kind
hang
of one of
around
those
being a jackass and
things.
That's something we've all definitely kind of taken with us, and I think we were kind of already doing that, but it's really good advice. And then other than that, I think he's just kind of definitely built a lot of our confidence up a little bit because he came and watched us at Redbird Listening Room in New Braunfels and had a lot of good things to say about our songwriting and stuff. And coming from a guy like that kind of means something. So, yeah, what do y'all think?
I think it was, you know, we're still kind of trying to process all of it because it's happened so recently, you know, but just trying to been able to soak everything up and kind of keep, you know, every word he says, you know, or anybody in that kind of crew, which is, they got a great crew. Any advice that gets thrown our way, we try to apply it to what we're doing, and very grateful to have these opportunities and stuff. So.
Yeah. As far as like pointers and stuff, it seems like he's kind of hands off as far as like what we're doing in music, and you know, we've only been talking to him for a little bit, but like for instance, I was playing guitar with Cameron at Longhorn Ballroom, and you know, we were kind of shooken by a few things after the show, and he was like, man, y'all did fine, you know.
Wasn't the best set.
Yeah, but you know,
a good time.
He knows because he's been there, and I think that's I think he kind of has a good understanding.
Yeah, he said, "Don't worry about it; it'll happen. It'll all work itself out." As far as a band and stuff like that, and obviously, Ashton's not going to play lead guitar for me for the rest of his life, even though I want him to.
I hope not.
Nope.
He shouldn't. He's too talented on his own.
I'm going to tell everybody Cameron fired me.
When guys like Cleto and Randall and Benton and Dalton were all, and that's the funny thing about all that kind of stuff is there's like also all these other guys that we kind of forget about because they either got like a quote unquote real job or went on to something else or, you know, just stopped doing it. But the point is like when those guys were all coming up, it was like this competition of not of like, oh, you know, Flatland has so-and-so amount of listeners on Spotify right now. It was like, oh, I know Cleto's going to show up with a new song on Monday. I want to have something that I'm working on too. Have you guys kind of cultivated that kind of same thing where it's like that friendly competition of like, you know, oh, Hank just wrote something that sounds pretty good. I'm going to one up him, quote unquote, because I want to impress him too, you know?
That's what I love so much about this fact we have is I think we all know numbers can mean something, but they don't mean everything. And there's a bunch of listeners and stuff like that. But we're truly interested in, you know, the depth behind it.
For sure. It's a lot of this I feel like is a very like experience. There's only one way to gain experience, and that's to go out, play a bunch of shows, do a bunch of stuff, mess up a bunch, play a bunch of bad shows, make mistakes. And it's such a unique, like, it's the weirdest job in the world. I mean, I'm trying to make it a job. I wish I was a little more comfortable right now, you know, more gigs and stuff like that. But eventually I hope, you know, I'm doing this more full time. But yeah, you just got to get out there, and that would be my advice to everybody and anybody is just repetition, play the shows, get better, network. Yeah.
I think the environment that we got started into, it was a big part of it. You know, obviously the culture is the same all across Texas, but specifically where we came up in San Marcos, you know, the reason we all met each other was because of, you know, Songwriter Night, Achievement Street Warehouse. Writing songs, always trying to make songs a priority, and also you know, just playing as many shows as possible, trying to, you know, just getting reps and reps, and you know, still doing that now. You know, we're still trying to get all that together.
Just getting started for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole surrounding yourself with people who are trying to do the same thing. It sounds cliche, but, you know, I didn't really come to realize that until I met these guys at Cheatham Street. And, you know, I really started feeling myself advance as an artist. And I feel like we all, you know, unknowingly push each other because we're always getting better. And, you know,
If one of us wins, everybody wins too. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's always work too, and I think there was kind of a moment in music where this is just from the outside looking in, but it almost seemed a little too competitive, where it wasn't as, you know, there wasn't as much camaraderie. And I think that's like one of my favorite eras is the late 90s ideas. It's kind of Bret Hart, yeah, that kind of merging era, and man, those guys were all friends. They all wrote to each other. They came to kill a song and song. That's what I want.
Yeah. I think like back in the day, there was more of that competition in like a negative way, because there was just a finite amount of record deals. You know what I mean? We're only cutting this many records this year because there's only this many recording studios, there's only this many major labels, and there's only you'd hear these stories about
this group,
you know,
we have
a record label seeing three guys and knowing that they're only going to sign one of them, you know, and it's like, well, that
like
puts it in
listeners and stuff
really
like
drastic
that.
terms, you know.
We're truly interested.
But it's been such a beneficial thing
the
where
depth behind
you guys could literally cut a record
art
in your
that we're
house if you
making.
wanted to. You know,
Yeah, these guys humble me all the time.
There's
Every
no
time I play with
rules
them,
on
I forget how good they are.
if you want to
and,
get your music on.
Definitely
into
super
the hands of
healthy.
the
Our
masses,
personality is
like,
really funny too. We're
No one's telling
we're
you
definitely
you
shit
can't.
talkers.
No one's telling you no. You can't put this
in a
record
fun
out.
way.
You can't
It's all
quote unquote
friendly,
compete
but,
with a major label
to
release.
have that camaraderie like
Now,
that.
the major
is-
label
is
is going to have a
super
bunch of
important.
money pushing it and all that kind of stuff. But you get what
And we got a lot of
my
friends
point
up here,
on
you
all
know,
this
because Lubbock
is,
kind of has a
is that
scene of up and comer guys, and
when you,
and
I guess the
some
artist took
girls
that
too,
part of the
and
control out of
everyone.
the
But there's something special
out
about
of major labels'
you know, I
hands,
don't mean
where
to
everyone can
talk
make
about
a
us
record if
like
they
that, but, you know,
want.
there's something special about
It
what we
really
got going
is
on.
the terms on as
there
far
is a
as,
little more like
you know, all the boats rise
competition
with,
there, and we push
with
each
the
other.
tide,
I think
you
that's
know,
why
whatever the cliche
pretty
kind of
dang
thing
good.
is.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cheatham Street.
Also, you know,
you mentioned Blue Light.
I kind of
My buddy Charlie Stout would always talk about how
you know they have the
those
scenes
2
in
nights,
New York, LA, and
as far as Songwriter Nights,
now
were like the
Austin,
most
obviously is a big
important
hub, like,
nights
you
in,
don't hear about
in
someone
Texas,
who's
like,
getting really good
and how
out by themselves. Like it's having a community to compete
I'm
with.
trying to think of
and, like,
exactly the way
same
he
with
phrased
songwriting,
it, but
Blue Light
like
Songwriter Night.
at Cheatham
Songwriter
Street, you
Nights
went to
everywhere.
go
It's
like to be
if
heard
you're
and know that
writing something-
like
trying to write something new and
everything
show
you
it to
said
somebody,
was
you're
going to
just bouncing
be
ideas and just
listened to,
trying to
and then at
impress
Blue
those
Light
guys.
you
It's
learned
always
how to
good have a
like
competitive
make the
community,
audience hear
but
you.
It's never unhealthy.
Is that kind of something that you guys have found still happening
we're
as
all
far
great
as the
friends,
two
you know,
places, and as far
could
as
name
like,
so many other more
um,
people that are with us.
you know,
too,
cutting your
same
teeth
artists
on
that
that
are
way
the
of
same,
like
you know,
putting the
Live
importance
wave,
on what you're
all
saying, but then also
if one of us wins, everybody
that working
wins
out in
too.
two
That's-
different
that's
ways
how it
of
goes.
like
Exactly.
where one's going
That's
to
how it's
probably
always
be
worked too, and that's
critiqued
I
in a
think
way
there was
that
kind of
is
a moment
more artistic
and
in
music
the way at
where
Cheatham
it-
Street, and then like
is
at
just
Blue
from
Light
the
where you
outside
actually
looking
have
in.
to
but it almost seemed a little
kind
too
of fight a
competitive,
crowd
where it
in
wasn't
a way,
as
in some
you know,
respects.
there wasn't as much camaraderie, and I think that's like one of my favorite eras is the late '90s, early 2000s, kind of Red Dirt, that whole
Stillwater.
yeah, that kind of merging era, and man, those guys were all friends. They all wrote with each other. They gave each other songs. You know, that's what I want, and I think we're all on the same page about that too.
My first single was on Monday night. I was like blown away. I was like, oh man, you actually have to get people's attention to listen to it, which is also, I didn't realize that at the time. That's such a, it's like the other half, you know. That was like sacrilegious. The festival goes to live and everyone's talking and thinking and like, it's going, why are people listening to me? Yeah. They don't even treat it. They don't owe us anything. Yeah. And you have to give them stuff, which is cool. And each of them has their thing. I don't think one's better than the other. You might have one or the other. Obviously, one's Cheatham Street, but that was kind of biased. But there's something very special about Cheatham Street, and that is it's listening. And there's kind of a thing there, everyone knows. you start talking, if you start acting out of hand, we're gonna ask you to leave. But it's cool. It's Blue Light's cool too. It's just a different thing.
It is. I never really, if I'm being completely honest, I went to Blue Light Songwriter Night for about a year consistently when I lived up here. And then I got really discouraged after a while because it kind of sucks being up there and people not listening. And I was just like, and I'd been to Cheatham, and so I kind of understood how that went. Looking back at it now, like, man, that's, both are vital tools to, paving a songwriter's career. It's, you want to be able to get people's attention, whether it's cursing at them or, a catchy melody or a good hook or whatever.
Crowd dancers and all that stuff that you kind of learn as you go on. But you also at the same time going to have some songwriting artist thing that is really wrestling to you and hanging on to every word and every line.
Yeah.
It's also the dilemma too. As we're coming up, we're writing our own songs as we're learning how to play with the band, learning how to play shows. It's like, trying to hone in on both crafts at the same time, putting on a great live show, and also focusing on songwriting. This can fluctuate, but I think I never really thought about it the way that you mentioned the two songwriter guys. It's kind of very yin and yang.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed a lot of parallels so far between doing the songwriter thing and honing your craft there and playing with the band and that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of parallels with what you were saying earlier about kind of living in your own head and then being not just a good songwriter, but a good, I guess you could say,
I think it teaches the two most important aspects of the whole deal because, I know Ashton kind of got started at Blue Light, even though he's from San Marcos, but he was up South Plains, and me and Cam, first Songwriter Nights we went to were at Cheatham, and, we got really kind of, I thought every songwriter night was like Cheatham Street, and which I love, and it's and then I came up to Lubbock probably to record my first single, and I was on a Monday night. I was like, I'm gonna go by, and I was like blown away. I was like, oh man, you actually have to get people's attention to listen to you, which is also I didn't realize that at the time, but that's like the other half,
Yeah, that was like sacrilegious to us to go to Blue Light and everyone's talking and drinking and it's like, what's going on?
Why are people listening to me?
Cheatham Street.
They don't owe us anything.
Yeah,
we need to give them something,
which is cool. And each of them has their thing. I don't think one's better than the other. You might prefer one over the other. Obviously, coming from Cheatham Street, we're kind of biased. There's something very special about Cheatham Street. And that is that it is listening night. And there's kind of a thing in there. Everyone knows if you start talking, if you start acting out of hand, we're going to ask you to leave. But
everyone's going to,
I don't know. I enjoy it. It's cool. Blue Light's cool too. It's just a different thing. And
it is. I never really, if I'm being completely honest, I went to Blue Light Songwriter Night for about a year consistently when I lived up here. And then I got really discouraged after a while because it kind of sucks being up there and people not listening. And I was just like, and I'd been to Cheatham, and so I kind of understood how that went. But looking back at it now, I'm like, man, that's, both are vital tools to, paving a songwriter's career. You want to be able to get people's attention, whether it's cursing at them or, a catchy melody or a good hook or whatever, or,
dancing around,
crowd banter and all that stuff that you kind of learn as you go on. But you also at the same time want to have the songwriting artist thing that is when people are really listening to you and hanging on to every word and every line.
Yeah.
So
it's also that dilemma too that we, as we're coming up, we're writing our own songs as we're learning how to play with a band and we're learning how to play shows. It's like, trying to hone in on both crafts at the same time, putting on a great live show. And also, focusing on songwriting because sometimes those can fluctuate. But I think I never really thought about it the way that you mentioned the two songwriter nights. It's kind of very yin and yang almost, and it's all comes together.
Well, and I've noticed a lot of parallels so far between, doing the songwriter thing and honing your craft there and playing with a band and doing that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of parallels with what you were saying earlier about kind of living in your own head and being not just a good songwriter, but a good, I guess you could say like a businessman or, a people's person and going out and meeting people. You've got to find a fine line between the two.
Hitting the forgotten pockets of the map photographer Kat Swansea celebrates the sun-faded storefronts and abandoned roadsides. All but buried by the desert, Kat documents the places we've left behind. Her debut book, Texas Textures, and its follow-up, Texas Textures Volume 2, which was just released earlier this year, are journeys through old ghost towns, rusted-out gas stations, and desert facades. Part memoir and part classic coffee table photography book, both Texas Textures volumes are the exploration of the dissolving past. They play on the differences between ruins and relics. Often, those are one and the same. If you love grain and grit, hard-scrabbled beauty, and intimate Texas stories, be sure to head on over to catswansea.com and pick up Texas Textures Volume 1 and 2. That link will also be in the show notes. All right, let's get back into the episode.
Yeah. I think an interesting part about the blue light thing is where, so you have to get the audience, you have to get their attention, but even in the way there's like a teaching tool in there where, you know, you can get attention for being, you know, having a real kitschy kind of shtick song, but then you've seen those guys who do that numerous times over, and you know the appeal gets less each time. So it's like, you know, you is it like the firecracker kind of thing where you're trying to make the attention that way, or do you feel like, you know, you gotta dig deeper and actually get their attention for the longevity, the long run, you know, because it's very, very easy to just be like, to go up there and you know, make a bold statement of like, the easiest target, of course, is just like, yeah, fuck Nashville or so, you know, and having a song, something like that, where, you know, it may grab someone's attention, but that attention span fades fairly quickly. And then you're still just the guy up there without any songs, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think if you can give some people something to latch onto that's, I hate to say it, but kind of palatable, they're more willing to dive into your stuff and listen. I mean, Jerry Jeff wouldn't have had his career without Bojangles or Redneck Mother. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, they're two completely different songs, but
for sure. I've always been a melody guy and never shied away from writing something that's kind of poppy and kind of palatable, like you were saying. I've always been a fan of that kind of music. And a lot of my favorite songwriters and like favorite artists, I'm sitting here looking at this drunk Evan Felker sticker. It's just the coolest thing ever. And like this guy, this band, I mean, you know, one of my favorite writers ever, but at the same time, countless melodies that are just smash hits and get stuck in your head all day. And so, yeah, I've always, every time I sit down to write a song, I try not to think too much about that, but I am a big fan of, you know, stuff that is going to get stuck in people's heads and stuck in my head, and as well as writing smart, artsy, you know, good songwriting. So both worlds.
Is it Brent?
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say you know, like trying to, you know, writing a catchy melody and all that stuff, whatever words you're going to put behind it though, you know, everyone in the scene for the most part is very just transparent with who they are, and the songwriting influences that we have strictly lyrically are all, you know, very just from the heart and authentic. And I think that always comes through even with a pop melody.
It's got to be real. You can write something that's real and honest and emotional, and still maybe part of that is having that melody in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like if there wasn't like a good melody, good hooks, good, all that kind of good stuff in there, you know, I guess maybe songs wouldn't even rhyme. And you know what I mean? Like, and no one's out there listening to, you know, just because, I'll put it this way. Me and one of my buddies would always talk about, just because you have quote unquote authenticity doesn't mean you're going to write a good song. You know, like there's a lot of really guys digging coal. That don't mean they're going to write a great coal mining song. You know, there's still that artistic expression that has to be part of it that makes the makes it palatable, as you kind of said. What I was going to ask though is there like a specific moment that you feel for each of y'all that's kind of been like that little bit of that watershed moment, that linchpin that like really felt like, okay, I'm not necessarily quote unquote lost writing songs now. I kind of know what I'm doing because of feedback or anything like that, where there's been a moment where you kind of felt like, okay, I'm on the right path, at least in this way. Yeah. Is there anything that like sticks out for y'all?
I mean, like what you already said, immediately I think, us as artists, a lot of us are very kind of insecure at the end of the day. And it's kind of this weird thing where it's, I hate attention, but I love it at the same time. I'll get up on stage every night and terrified sometimes and still get up there and want to do that. That's, it's still the dream. And so I didn't have a whole lot of confidence when you don't really know what you're doing, starting out, because no one's there that is like, hey, this is good. So I think for me, definitely not even like until the past year, just I've had people that I've looked up to and that know what they're talking about and said, hey, this is good. So that like confirmation has like changed my confidence completely. So now I feel like, hey, maybe I could actually do this. And like I'm onto something here with these songs, and I got something here when somebody that I look up to says, this is good. Keep doing it. So, yeah.
I think it's just toeing the line between your insecurities and confidence. I mean, I don't think any of us are ever going to lose the insecure feeling we have. That's just, I think we just have that by nature, and songwriting is kind of a way to express that. It's an outlet. But on the other hand, like as of recent, I feel like I've sort of had a breakthrough, and a lot of that just comes with writing all the time. But just because you're writing all the time doesn't necessarily mean you're doing the right thing. So it's just not being too hard on yourself, because if you're going to write good songs at some point, if you just keep doing it, and it's
keep the door open.
Yeah. The sooner you accept that, it's, you're going to be a lot happier with yourselves. And like, I want to say it was Radney Foster that said the thing about write 100 bad songs. And there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
I kind of, I agree with exactly what they just said too. And I think I have the dread when I'm trying to start a song and I can't get it done. And when I finish the song, I'm like, oh, I think I got it figured out. That's always your newest one's always your favorite. And
oh yeah.
Kind of like some of us have kind of dabbled in co-writing in the past year and a half, which is new for us. But also if you're sitting down in a co-write and you have an idea in a song and the other person says, oh, I like that. It's kind of one of those moments too. It kind of clicks. You're like, oh, okay. So this is, it's validation kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Thing.
What's weird, I think, is like how obviously when you're writing a song, you can be very, very intimate and very, very, let that guard down and be very, very personal when writing in a solo way. But almost when you're doing a co-write, if it's like you're almost even more intimate because you're actually like sharing it with someone else, and they may go, no, I've never thought that, like, what are you fucking talking about? And like, it's almost even like you have to let your guard down even more because like, or be, a little bit more intimate and more just real, even more with somebody else who you're bouncing ideas off of versus even just yourself sometimes.
Yeah. If you're doing it with the right person, it is very freeing. Like,
yeah.
If you sit down and write with Shelby Stone, she's
transparent, man.
Yeah, she goes, great. All right, before we start writing this song, what's the worst thing that's ever happened in your life? Are your parents divorced? Was it your fault? Like, just get it all out on the table. So when you try to start write something, kind of get a feel for where the other person's at. So I think
yeah. That's a tough thing. I think that's why I suck at co-writing, because I hate vulnerability. I'm still working on that as a person, I guess. But yeah, I am not the best co-writer. I'm trying to be better. But it's at the end of the day, it's a people skill thing. Yeah, you have to kind of be really, even if you're insecure, the scariest thing to do is going to a co-write with someone you don't really know, and they ask you, "You got anything you've been kicking around?" You're, "Oh, I got this little thing," and you're just nervous because you don't know if it's anything or if it's good, and they're either kind of be like, "Oh yeah, it's good, but we'll try something else," or they're like, "That's amazing," and you follow it. So you kind of have to learn how to get your soul crushed just a little bit.
Made for the dance hall, the dive bar, the fire pit, and the front porch, OG Lone Star is your go-to spot to grab vintage-inspired attire and gear. Nothing pairs with a cold, crisp Lone Star quite like a comfortable Lone Star t-shirt, a sharp trucker cap, and a smooth satin jacket. Officially licensed gear, OG Lone Star is the real deal. Visit oglonestar.com. Now, let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, like I've been privy enough to go on, like, if you're familiar with like any of the 806 songwriter stuff, like that, we go to Stephenville and all these 806 guys would go out there and co-write, and I'd be out there just hanging out and did a few stories on it and stuff. And I think like the thing that, like, being that wallflower in those situations was seeing like a couple of really interesting aspects of that, where like some guys got like this fire in their eyes of just like manic focus, like where you're like, I've never seen you like this in this state, where you were like, they were just so honed in on it. And then also like, and like a guy like Will Clark Green is already kind of blunt in any kind of fashion, but him being like writing with somebody and nobody getting their feelings hurt, him going, "No, we can do better than that." Like, "No, that's not it. No," and vice versa, in the same way of going back and forth of going, "No, that's not it. No, that's not it.
Yeah.
No, that's not it." And like, they're never losing that momentum, if you will. Because like that can be, obviously, if you're told no 10 times in a row because that's not the thing, then it's that can be a little deflating. But in those moments of just knowing that those two people or those three people were all in line of trying to find that, whatever that thing was. When him and BA wrote Drunk Again, like I was over there, it was about 11 o'clock at night, and they're on the LJT stage, and they were just like, first off, we were all drunk as hell, but they were just firing lines back and forth and, chain smoking cigarettes and trying to, I'd have my phone out with the light on, trying to shine a light on a paper for them to jot something down. Yeah. But just like that fire of in their eyes were just both like focused, hardcore focus. And in those kind of moments, I think that's something like it's nice and it's in that way of it kind of validates what you hoped they would be like in those moments, and not like just super bored or something like that, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, getting in a flow state when you're writing by yourself is fun, but when you get in a flow state with somebody else and it's going back and forth, it's like it's like a fire. It's like
it's kind of manic, or at least like a lot of the songs that I'm most proud of. I wrote them in like like just obsessed for days. Like sometimes you kick around a song in your head for days, and like I had this song on this new project I'm working on called How Many Stars, and it just bothered me for days. I remember I was still in school going to class, and I would sit there in class not listening to a single word that the professor was saying, just like over and over and over thinking about this. What if I did this? And then typing it and then walking home and getting stuck at a train and just trying to get to my guitar in my apartment. Just like, I need to get there to get this down and make sure this is working. And there's something like, I don't know if that's healthy or that's just like something that we all have. And personality wise, talking about Will Clark Green and kind of getting to know him a little more. I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and write with him yet, but, he is definitely, his personality is pretty, like, he's a little bit all over the place, but look at the songs. I mean, that kind of reflects that I'm sure he gets in those states where he just, like you were saying, just go, and just until you get the song,
Yeah.
and you crack the code, and it's kind of euphoric. It's kind of crazy. I gotta learn how to control it sometimes, because I'll just be so obsessive over my stuff. And I know you too. And
Yeah, well, and the best are, a lot of times your favorites are always going to be the ones that come out in 15, 20 minutes. And then, you might go back and revise like a line or two. But like for the most part, it was probably this manic state that you were in for about half an hour, and you just cranked out something that you're really proud of. And you look back, you're like, how did was it, it was BJ Barham. I remember I heard him say, he wrote Hope He Breaks Your Heart.
Yeah.
Like before a show or something.
Yeah.
Like right before they went on.
From what I remember him saying is like they had played a show and his ex-girlfriend showed up with a new guy, and they cut the set. They went off stage, and then he went into the green room, wrote that song, came back on stage and said, hey, we're not done it yet. Here,
Yeah.
I got one more fucking thing to say.
You can't make that shit up, man. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words for like stuff like that, and I really do think songs will just
fall from the sky.
Exactly.
I've said this on stage like all the time. Like some song, I've quoted, it's like songwriting's like digging up buried treasure. It's equally as rewarding as it is laborsome, but sometimes songs just fall from the sky in an ethereal, way. And those are the best songs. Those are the songs you're meant to write. Some, like, it feels like you're just a conduit. Like you're not even. I didn't make this song. I have this song called Any Part of Life, and I wrote it when I was like 17, 18 years old, and it just, in literally maybe 15 minutes, I kind of had the idea, and then I sat down, and in 15 minutes I had the song, and I didn't feel like I really wrote that song. If that sounds crazy, it might sound crazy, but it's very kind of
exactly
a weird
what you mean.
spiritual thing that happens, and that's, at the end of the day, like, songwriters, like, we're kind of like addicts in a way. Like, we're searching for that high and that feeling to cut through, to kind of transcend. It's a spiritual thing to grasp onto something and to figure life out.
Yeah,
I can have a shitty day, and if at the end of the day I wrote a song, or I wrote a line or a verse or whatever, I can lay my head down at night and be okay.
It's the best feeling.
Like it's
self-validating, and it's like you feel like you're on the right path when it finally, pun intended, strike a chord.
Yeah, I just have to, like, bad habit I have is like Cam's saying, like, you bounce around the idea all day and you're getting down, you want to get to your guitar, and then that habit is not, once you have it, finishing it. Sometimes I get like, oh, I just wrote half of this, I'll get back to this, and I'll be in the same headspace, and then I try to go finish it. I'm like, no, I should have just sat down and just finished it right there, because my head was in that spot, and it's hard to get back to that sometimes. That's kind of a bad habit, I guess.
No, there's something to that where, so in relation to that, what I would kind of say is like, are you guys familiar with the writer J.D. Salinger? He wrote like Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah.
So he wrote that, and he probably had a few other handful of like short story books, but then he just stopped getting stuff published. And not because he stopped writing, it's because he's just kind of like this prolific writer who just didn't want to like put out stuff, but also in this weird fucking there's a couple of documentaries about him where it's like kind of like a bad husband, bad father, but what he would do is like behind their house.
There's no way that these mics aren't picking that.
Yeah, it's picking up some stuff, but like it's part of the.
It might be awesome. I don't
part
know.
of it, but what he would like basically he had like this like place in his back of his house that was his studio where he'd write, and what he did was he had like a rule that was just kind of a rule with the family of, if I'm in a jumpsuit, don't fucking talk to me. And it would be like one of those, like a jumpsuit that like a mechanic would wear.
Yeah.
And, he'd be out in the backyard smoking cigarettes or whatnot, or be doing whatever. And it'd be like, if his wife and his kids just would not talk to him when he was in that state, because and I can't like. I mean, that's an extreme, but I 100% agree with like the sentiment of like sometimes it's so hard to tap back into that moment that you're talking about. For y'all, like, is there a song specifically that y'all can think of that it did take a little bit of bleeding to get to that point of completion?
Yeah. I've got one of my favorites that I've written. It's called Paper Thin, and I remember the day I showed up to Cheatham Street to take pictures with our manager, Alec, and Hank was there, and I showed him this, and I showed it to Alec, and he was like, "You should have Hank write with you and finish that." And I was like a verse or something, and Hank didn't help me at all, but
Ashton helps me with my songs, and I failed to reciprocate.
No, so I was sitting on that for so long, and I knew I loved it. I loved the melody and everything, and the song was pretty much there. It's not a real like long song. It's not super in depth or anything, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. And it took me 5 or 6 months to finish it. And I was sitting on me and a couple of my other buddies, Austin Case and I want to say Jameson and Tanner Menegay were there too. They were sitting on the tailgate, and we had kind of scheduled a write. And they were like, "Well, what do you got?" And I showed them like what I had, the verse and maybe the chorus, and man, that's killer. And Austin was like, "Hey, what if you did this line right here?" As soon as he said that, it wasn't even like a full complete line. As soon as he said that, I drove home, I finished the rest of that song. And for whatever reason, I've always found it easier to write songs without a guitar in my hands. Guitar's a distraction. It is, but I mean, I probably sat on that for 6 months before I ended up finishing it.
Kind of I think the situation I could relate to that in was probably my first productive co-writing experience. I have a song called "Lonely Is My Only Friend Tonight," and I had started it with like 2 verses and a chorus, or like didn't have a tagline on it. You know, I hadn't really like tried to sit down and co-write with anybody, but for months I was just trying to finish it, and I tried to think of different meanings for it. And then I was playing some shows with Slade Coulter, and we were Broken Bow, Oklahoma or whatever, and he sat down, and it was the first time I'd showed somebody a song, and he immediately wasn't like, "Oh, well, I got this half for 2." You know, he heard it, and he was like, "Oh, I want to help you with that." And he came up with a tagline and a bridge and then another verse, and it was like, that was kind of like the kind of moment, I guess, where I'd sat on that for so long and tried to think of every different way I could say it, but it finally came together for a while. So
Yeah. I'm pretty lazy. Honestly, I'm pretty lazy, like, as a person. So I have to really, like, I'm trying to get more. I expect, like, a song to just, like, work immediately. And if it's not, then I'm like, I'm out of there. I'm not going to try. But I've kind of been trying to be better about that. So the song of this new project called Blessing, Not a Curse was definitely one of those songs that had an evolution. That started as like a completely different thing, and I didn't really know what it was about yet. And I was super motivated that day, I guess. And it took me like 6 hours just sitting at home to try to crack this song, and finally I got it. And that's when it kind of clicked, and I realized that there's multiple ways to get to that end point. You know, the easy way is that we all want to happen every day, is just falls from the sky. But you can get to the same final product the long way. Sometimes you got to take the long way, and sometimes it's worth it if you want to do this as a career and be it, and write 100 songs a year. And
I think there's return in that too. You know, you go the hard way on the songs, and you try to. If you work hard enough, then I think more times than none you will have those ones that will pop out of the air.
It's the same principle as anything in life. You work hard for something, and it's going to show, and people are going to be able to tell. And people are going to be able to tell when you half-ass that song. And it sucks when you got to go out and play it, and you've already. It's in your set list, or you've recorded that song or whatever. And, I don't have too many regrets, but there's a lot of times where I'm like, wish I would have spent more time on that,
Yeah. I think like there's that fine balance of like, I try and tell people, especially when you're young, at least just get something out. Like, I know everyone's gonna hate what you first did when you look back in 10 years for, just because I think that it's human nature of a songwriter of going, man, the first thing I did, I just didn't like, but it's important to have something out to show that to first, show yourself like, hey, I actually fucking did do something here. It is interesting you're talking about the whole different ways to get to the end of a song. I've been privy enough to have interviewed Terry Allen a handful of times, and one of his things that he talked about was kind of having, like, I guess, the discipline of going every day into what his studio and, like, just being in there for 4 or 5 hours a day. And maybe not 5 hours every day, but, an hour here. And just, like, you have to have the discipline of going in there every day, because and what he talked about was, like, it's not even every day that you're, working on a song or working on a painting or a sculpture or whatever, or a screenplay, whatever it is. You may just be filing shit away. You may be cleaning up the office area. You may be doing this, whatever, all the little things that are part of being an artist. But you have to allow yourself to be in that space where you're telling your body, I guess, like, this is time to create. And all that stuff that's happening in your mind, you're talking about, like, in class, and it being in there. I think realizing, like, that's all part of songwriting too is, like, a big step for a lot of artists to realize, it's not just necessarily writing the song with a guitar in your hand, right? It's all the other shit that is part of songwriting too. It's being, present in all the other aspects of life where, that's part of songwriting as well, as seeing all that shit and then actually being able to later apply it.
Well, and you can't. I've found it really hard. I know a lot of people have success writing songs, making up stories, and I've found some success in that. But I found more success from, it's just like Willie Nelson said. You got to write what you know, and if you don't go out there and just live some life too, it's like you don't have much to write about. And I definitely experienced a time in my life when I was really new to songwriting that I shut myself off to the world and relationships and stuff because I was so caught up in, I want to be a songwriter. Like, this is, I'd lock myself in my room and just write songs that had really no depth behind them because I wasn't going out and doing anything. It's very counterintuitive.
I don't think everybody could be Townes Van Zandt and lock himself in a closet and come out with 3 of his best songs.
Right. Come out with.
Well, I mean, the best Townes thing is, of course, like, he fucking wrote, what is it? He wrote, I can't even remember what it is. He wrote it, like, in the middle, like, it wasn't even sleeping. It was a dream.
For the sake of the song.
And he was just like, he woke up and fucking wrote it down. It's like, imagine being that fucking prolific of a dude.
I think Taylor Swift does that shit too. Yeah, that's never happened. Actually, one time, like, early morning, those weird early morning dreams you get, like deep REM sleep thing. I had one. I had a melody, and it was, like, awesome. Like, in my dream, I was going, "This is awesome! Like, this is the best thing I've ever came up with." And then I woke up and it was just gone. I had no idea what it was. Yeah. And it probably wasn't even anything. It was probably just me imagining it was awesome. But
Townes also said he wrote Poncho and Lefty, and then he saw like a TV show that was the story same story from the song, but he saw it after he wrote it or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, he probably made that shit
You know
up.
what I'm talking about? No, he definitely was probably
just
being an ass.
Cabin.
But I find that hilarious. He's like, saw
I
a
think
TV show that was bad.
A couple Townes things that I think are funny is, one, like, I don't know what marriage it was or girlfriend it was, but, like, third marriage kind of deal. And one day his wife kind of sees him packing up shit, and she's like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm going on tour. And she didn't even know he's a fucking songwriter and, like, a musician. She just thought it was just a dude. And yeah, and then another thing was, like, them asking, like, if he liked the Willie and Merle version of Poncho and Lefty better. than his version. And he was like, no, like, you know, that's how I meant it to be. It was the way I did it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, you have the Stones to say, the Merle and Willie version, you know, not too bad. You know, my version, a lot better, even though not nearly as critically acclaimed.
I read a book and it quoted him, and he said it sounded like they were singing it from reading a script. Or it sounded like they were reading it off when they were singing it in the studio.
Yeah,
It's crazy that two of the greatest country songwriters of all time, Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson, are. Yeah, that's how it's perceived. But I was thinking about, you were talking about starting out as a songwriter and just getting something out there, and you're going to look back on it. I mean, I can only think of one person that looks back on whatever they put out first and loves it, and that's Will Sound Ramsey, because he just did the one, and he was like, you know what, I'm done. And that's like the only situation I could think of where that would be, you know, acceptable.
Well, that's a unicorn.
Yeah, I put out like 3 singles 4 years ago. Had no idea what I was doing. The songs are good. I think the songs are okay, but like listening back to my voice and everything, I hate it. I can't stand it, and I hate listening to my voice in general. But
Nobody would want to get better if they, you know, it's like, well, I did this. All right.
It shows
well,
evolution too, like you said earlier.
If you hate listening to your voice,
Yeah,
I highly recommend do not become a podcast guy, because like you're gonna listen
you have
to
to
it
go
a
edit all
million.
this stuff and like
And that's why like
edit.
these are so loosely edited, because I'm like, I'm not going through the middle of this and cutting all the ums out, and because
Like comping vocals
this
in the
is
studio, you hate it. You have to listen to yourself sing the same line over and over again. It's like, stop.
is that one of those funny things too of like you know, romanticizing this idea of, oh, I'm going into the studio is going to be so cool, and then it's like the exact same like.
Oh, they're going to make
Little-
me sound so good.
Yeah, that's a process too. Like the studio stuff, I'm still not even, you know, I've done a few projects now. I've recorded, let's see, maybe 14 songs now or something. And that's a whole different learning process. And I'm a very I like to have my hands on everything in the studio. Someday I want to like produce records for people and produce my own stuff, but man, it's like a whole. I think I finally figured out how to write a song, and then all of a sudden you get in a studio and you got all this other moving parts, and you got to figure it out, and it's wild. But the only way to do it, like I said earlier, is just to throw yourself in there and just go.
And you'll get married to a song, and then it'll take a whole new form in the studio.
Yeah, and then you hate it, and it still might be good, but you're seeing it through.
Sometimes it makes me love a song even more. I'm like, I'll play a song that I don't even want to put on a record, and then I'll just play it, and then it turns into one of my favorites. Like, it's just all it's all weird how that works out.
Yeah, everything changes when you get in the studio for sure.
So how do you make sure to everyone like hearing like any background noise? You know, we're at Cotton Fest. It's gonna happen. You're gonna hear some back noise.
It's awesome.
But,
It's rock and roll.
So how do you that first little bit of inspiration that made you think of this idea, that spark? How do you ensure that like that's still that intention, that first little bit ends up in the final product, or do you let it kind of grow and morph into its own thing?
Working with the right producer that knows how to, you know, I know me.
Serve a song.
Yeah, serve the song. Me and Cameron both work with David Beck, and I think one of the, you know, he's obviously got his, you know, he's got his hands in so many different baskets, and he's such a versatile just artist in general when it comes, and he's a creator at heart before he's a producer, and so I think that's one of the biggest.
And he's a songwriter.
He's a songwriter,
That
and
matters.
so he's not gonna, you know, he's gonna hear what you have to say, and he's gonna make it sound exactly how he interprets it and how you interpret it, and he'll listen, and that's kind of a big part of that.
I have learned to purposely not listen and overthink my stuff. Somebody said, I don't know, I feel like I heard Parker say this, but I think he was quoting Mayer or something. It was like, a song is always, he might have said it on one of your podcasts, like a song is always as good as you thought it was when you wrote it. And like that magic in the moment when you're writing that song, sometimes it takes a year and a half, 2 years to write a song, record it, put out a record. But it's like, so you have this song before anyone else does, and you know about this song, and you have a relationship to this song for a whole year. And sometimes I feel like I'll overthink it, and I'll love a song when I wrote it, and then by the time it's time to put it out, it's just I don't really feel it anymore. And it's like, you know, I'll write a song and I'll play it at whatever gig I'm playing that week, and it's magical. It's like, oh, this is the best one I've written, and it feels so good and fresh and new, and like this is gonna be the one. And then I play it next weekend, I play it next weekend, I play it next weekend, and we record it. It feels like the song, it stays the same, but my perception, my feelings for the song kind of dies at some point. So I've learned to be very careful about like not, if I write a song and I think it's good, I try to forget about it until I go in the studio and I got to think about it again. I record it, obviously listen to the mixes and stuff, and I forget about it. 4 months later when it's time to put it out, I won't listen to it till it's on Spotify, and then I'll drive in my car, and then I'll be like, all right, it's still good, and then I'll put it away. So I got to be careful.
It's kind of like a summer camp friend. You know, you go to camp all summer and you meet somebody new and you're like best friends for the whole summer. You'll die for that person, and then after you come home, you're like, I'm probably never going to talk to that person again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, it's hard not to get married to songs. Like, I think a lot of it's, justified because, you might have a really good song on your hands. But especially early on with that first batch of 10, 20, 30 songs you write, it's so hard not to get married to them. And you look back a year later and you're like, I've written much better songs since then, It's one of those things, if you believe in it, go record it and find somebody who believes in it too, and find somebody who's not afraid to tell you, I don't think we should record that song, or, I think that song's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Find people who are honest with you, and we try to be honest with each other as much as we can.
Yeah, I imagine like that's for my comparison of that is like when you finally get an editor who doesn't just take what you sent to them and they just publish it. It's like the editor who goes, let's redo this. Let's work on this part. And the first time that happens, I'm like, how dare you use a red marker on Thomas Mooney's writing? Like the ego talks to yourself in that moment. But then, as you age and you grow, you kind of go like, man, you kind of know your limitations, like your weak parts, your weaknesses and your faults, and you kind of go, okay, I can be super long-winded. Okay, I understand that. That's probably a good idea to X this paragraph out, or let's change this around because, you can. I understand what I'm saying, but like clearly the editor didn't realize what I was meaning by that. So you kind of pick and choose your battles, I guess, in a way, from my perspective. So I feel that's probably same thing on knowing like, having that friend, that producer, you hired him for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. You're working with him for a reason of knowing like his advice or her advice should probably mean something when they say, yeah, this isn't good enough for this record, And in a lot of ways, when they're saying that is like they know that there's something more that you can do. You can make a better song than that. One up that line, basically.
100%. Well,
yeah, I think. I don't know, man. I think when it comes to, we're always going to be our own worst critic, and but if somebody's trying to tell you something, it's probably from the good of their own heart, and especially like an editor or somebody who's critiquing your songs, if you feel as if you still connect with it and maybe they don't and they're pointing something out, well, it's probably not personable and it's probably not going to reach a wide audience like a song is supposed to.
Yeah. We'll end it on this one right here, but like, what are y'all working on going forward? You guys got anything in the can that you're highly anticipating?
Yeah, I know
you're ready to make the Instagram post of like news on the horizon.
big things coming.
Big things coming soon.
Coming soon. I know me and Ashton are both sitting on records right now. I'm going to start rolling out singles probably at the beginning of August, and recorded it with David Beck, Martindale, same person Cameron did his first record with, and just try to play as many shows as possible, write more songs, get a record out. It's kind of the goal. So
yeah, kind of the same thing. I mean, I think we're all kind of in the same boat. We're playing as many shows as we can, full band, acoustic. I've got a record in the can right now. I've rolled out a couple singles that are going to be on it. I'm still trying to figure out a plan as to how to market it and all that jazz. But I did
All
a
the
record
boring
out
stuff.
in Dripping Springs with Pat Mansky, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So
Yeah.
it's coming soon.
And you just recently did something, right?
Yeah, I put a record out in last November, so it's only been, I don't know, however so many months. It's another thing. It's like, I think right now I'm just trying to remind myself that, I have basically a very fresh, project out that I still need to be like promoting and playing these shows. And so I'm focused on that, but lucky enough to be diving back into recording a new project right now. And I got 4 songs that are getting mixed right now. So that's, the start of a record, and we'll go back in a few months and try to make another record. I'm not sure when that will be coming out, but I think it's definitely the best stuff that I have ever done in a studio for sure. Like I said earlier, I usually hate my voice and my vocals when I hear them back, and this is the only time where I've been like super proud of my performance in the studio when it comes to vocals. And I think the songs are really I enjoy listening to. Like it's going to be very polished, very good, a little bit more poppy than the last stuff in a good way, not in like a really bad, but like good melodies that are in big choruses, and that's kind of what I wanted. But I think that I'm gonna still put some pretty songwriter stuff on the project and kind of even it out. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all for coming on the old podcast here, and
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
having
having
us,
us,
man.
dude. It was
Thanks
fun.
for having us,
Yeah.
man. I enjoyed it.
All right, that is it for this episode. Be sure to go ahead and check out OG Lone Star and Cat Swansea Photography. Be sure to subscribe to my new Substack, Tom Mooney's Almanac. Big thanks to Ashton, Cameron, and Hank for hopping on the podcast. And yeah, we'll see y'all next week for another episode of New Slang.